Hey, I'm Brian Van, sportbiketractor.com, and today we're going to break down the LSL handlebar riser kit install on our 2008 Suzuki GSX-R 600. The ergonomics of the modern sport bike are not the most comfortable. Let's be realistic. If you're not carving a canyon, okay, if you're not at the tail of the dragon doing a track day or racing, that long reach to those clip-on handlebars can really wear on some. For riders that are shorter in stature, right? Even if you are on the track, that long reach can be a bit of a challenge. For that reason, LSL has developed a line of handlebar riser kits. They all look a little bit different dependent upon your model, but the net result is you're going to have the bars higher and closer to you, dramatically reducing the overall reach to the bars. Using this GSX-R 600 as an example, I've already got the kit installed on the bike, as you can clearly see. These clip-ons were installed under the top triple clamp previously, so we're talking the reach was more here. This is a dramatic difference, okay? So much more comfortable. You're not transferring any of your weight forward. Why are we doing it on a track bike? This bike was donated to our track chaplain, Mark Miracle, by a fellow rider. He was moving it forward. A bunch of us are coming together to work on the bike to really make it perfect for Mark. Part of that was getting the handlebars closer to him. Mark's not the tallest guy, right? His arms are a little to the short side, and just his overall body type would make riding the bike with those really low clip-ons a lot less fun than it should be. For that reason, I wanted to get this kit, which was donated by Spiegler Performance Parts. Thank you very much, Matthias, for participating in this. Wanted to get this kit installed on the bike because I really feel this is going to be one of the keys for Mark to make this bike fun to ride. This is not going to be our typical install, okay? I can't show you every single step. We tried to do that. Caleb and I were filming that together. And the fact that this is a race bike changed the install so dramatically that I really had to make continual adjustments to the process in order to get the proper end result. We're going to talk about that in the second part of this video. What I want to share with you right now is that if you have a street bike, in the end, this install is not overly complicated. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts of it. You're going to need to be able to remove the top triple clamp and install the LSL triple clamp. With that, you'll be swapping over your ignition cylinder switch. We didn't do that on this bike because this bike has an ignition cylinder eliminator kit from Woodcraft. You'll be able to use all your stock controls. Your stock switch pod for the lights, your stock clutch perch, your master cylinder, your throttle assembly, all those things will be able to transfer right over. The instructions are going to make mention of how you need to route your throttle cables, so on and so forth down the line. It comes with a longer clutch cable, right? In order to install the clutch cable on this bike, what do you need to do? Well, you're going to need to be able to get the fairings off the bike so you have good access. You need to lift the fuel tank in order to get access to the clutch cable, okay? So this is a bit of a project. This isn't the kind of thing you're going to be out there in an hour and you're going to have this done. Trust me when I tell you that to get the right end result, you're going to be out there a while. It's very important that when you're done, you're able to sweep the handlebars without making contact with the fairings. You have a good, strong throttle return, right? Super important. On a street bike that has the OEM fairings, you'll be installing these spacers between the OEM fairing stay and the upper fairing. That is going to raise that front fairing, probably maybe just a little more than 1/4 of an inch. That is going to get you the clearance that you need in order to be able to sweep the bars. And it's important to note that even with that, you're going to have to make some adjustments to your controls, right? To get the clearance necessary. For example, if you have the clutch lever, pointing up a bit, that may in fact come in contact with the fairing. You can see here, we've got just a little bit of a downward angle, puts in a more ergonomic spot, right? You're going to have to do something like that. It's going to require a little bit of patience and a little bit of adjustment. This kit also requires you to replace the front brake lines. Raising these up like this will not allow you to reuse your OEM brake lines. You're going to have to install the brake lines that are included with the kit. The kit does not include any bar ends. Those are sold separate, and this is a unique size. I think this is like a 14 millimeter or something, so you're gonna need some LSL specific bar ends. We have those on the site with the kits. If you want those, you'll need to add those at the time of purchasing the kit. This is the color handlebar that is going to come with the kit. Let's say that you want a black or you want a different color bar. There are some options. It is a very slight upcharge. You're gonna need to reach out to our sales team before ordering the kit, and we can swap that out for you and then collect for just a little upcharge on the different color. Beyond that, this is a pretty straightforward install that results in a bike that is a lot more comfortable to ride. If you have any questions, leave those in the comments section of this video. I'm going to say that again later on. Even though this bike is not OEM, I could still offer a tremendous amount of advice if you're trying to install this on an OEM bike and you get caught up, throw it there in the comments section. I'll jump in there and answer that and help you get your project done. Okay, so I went to Spiegler's website and I printed off the fitting instructions. They're pretty good. We've got some pictures, got some diagrams, very clear instructions. We will use those for reference as we go through the project, as always. I've already drained all the brake fluid from the system. We've shown that in so many videos now. I'm not going to get into that right now. There's a lot of resources we have available on our site to check that. I'm going to loosen up the throttle. This bike is outfitted with a quick turn throttle assembly. We need to completely disassemble the controls from both sides of the motorcycle. There it is. This is one of those projects too that, you know, it's very likely that, you know, you're gonna end up needing to order some other small bits to make this happen. Everybody's project's a little bit different, you know, depending on if you have an OEM throttle, an aftermarket throttle, you know, so on and so forth down the line. You know, there's a high likelihood that you're gonna need to, you know, alter a few things here and there to get the end result exactly where you want it. One of the things that we're doing on this bike is we're gonna use a driven universal reservoir bracket. We'll pull it off the Brembo master cylinder on this bike to get the brake reservoir mounted back up. And depending on, you know, what you've got on your bike, odds are you're gonna have to do something like that too. Get your reservoir all mounted up. Loosen up the fasteners for the clip-on cuff clamp. On the other side of the bike. You know what, while we're here, let's get the master. Let some of this stuff hang freely now. Now over to the clutch side and repeat the same process. You have to loosen up the clutch cable adjustment on the other side in order to get enough slack to pull that out, but that's something we can address as we move a little further here in the project. We actually did this, God, it's been a few years now, but we did this on a Suzuki SV650. Probably back in 2012, sometime around there. Okay, now that we've got that off, we can go ahead and loosen up our steering stem nut. And then we've got a clip-on cuff here. Once you get the cuff loose, go ahead and straighten this bad boy back out. And we need a 6. Loosen up our top clamp pinch bolts. Okay, now just grab a hold of that clamp, just kind of work it like that by putting a little upward pressure. Off it comes. Make sure you take these off. Like so. Okay. Another thing that's going to be a little bit different with ours if you have a street bike, right, is we are not going to be installing the ignition cylinder back onto the triple clamp. We have a race setup on this bike, so it's all managed through the on-off switch, right? So that step we get to skip. The kit comes with this spacer, okay? Looking at the OEM triple clamp, and of course the directions did not clarify this, you can see on the very bottom of the OEM clamp, they're basically the same thickness, right, except for that boss at the bottom. For that reason, I'm going to install this spacer, which ironically is basically the same height as that, right here on the steering stem, okay? Next up is the triple clamp itself. Make sure you have the fasteners loose so they're not tight, creating excessive friction and drag. This is a tight fit. Just using a rubber mallet here. Nice and easy. You can tell once it's bottomed out. And when you have it bottomed like that, kind of tap on each side until it kind of stops moving. Now we're going to reuse the OEM washer as well as the OEM steering stem nut. LSL recommends, per the instructions, to torque this to about 11 foot-pounds, okay? Then torque your pinch bolts, okay? I'm not gonna go 11 foot-pounds here. I'm gonna go just kind of snug, just enough though it's gonna hold it flush. Like so. Okay, the final torque is going to be 65 foot-pounds. That's enough so it's gonna hold that thing square on the steering stem. Go ahead and run the pinch bolts down. We are going to torque these. 14.75 is what they call for in the LSL instructions. So just get those both run down finger tight so they're flush. torque wrench ready to go. Over to the other side here. Got that all set, and now we'll hit the steering stem nut. Okay, when I come back, we'll begin fitting the bars. Okay, so fitting the bars. Okay, you need to start with the bracket here. Obviously, be careful of your painted surfaces. Put the spacer down first. Go ahead and get your fastener lined up. Leave everything loose, and then come over to the other side. Just repeat the process. I don't see on the bars anywhere a alignment mark, so what we're going to do is try and get these centered using that LSL logo. Looks like that is right in the center. Super important with these clamps that you want to have an even gap front and rear, okay? You see that right here. What you don't want to do is run one side down all the way so it's held flush, and then the other side to be the only one with a gap. You want to do the best you can to keep those really even, okay? Now is a point too where you'd want to kind of, you know, get a sense for bar sweep. Like, what is it that you think that you're going to be using? See if I have any interference with the gas tank. Doesn't appear that I do. Okay, it's movie magic. Look at that. Mysteriously, we come back and the bike is completely assembled, right? We got it all put together. Why is it like that? Normally, I really prefer to show you all the steps it takes to get these projects done and get a good end result. This one proved to be very challenging, more so than if it was being done on just a street bike. The person that donated this bike to Mark had converted it to a race bike. There's some things that they changed, right, that you wouldn't have changed on your street bike, that really compounded the complexity of this project quite a bit. Caleb is going to show you, leading up to this, the nuts and the bolts of the triple tree, the top triple clamp install, putting the bars on, and then beginning to work through the process of installing the controls. Okay, and that's kind of where that part is going to stop, and that's where we're going to pick up with this, and I'm just going to give you an overview and a breakdown. You can see the end result. Look at that. I mean, I am not even reaching for these bars, okay? They're right, you put your hands out and mysteriously there are the handlebars. This is unbelievably comfortable. You can see that if you're a street rider, right? Or if you're shaped like Mark. Mark is shorter, right? He's a bigger guy, his arms aren't super long. So it's difficult for him to ride around all bent over, reaching for clip-ons that are way out here, okay? If you're not comfortable, it reduces the joy factor. It also reduces the safety while riding. It's hard to control the motorcycle really well when you're out there and you're simply uncomfortable. And that's why this mod makes so much sense. For a street rider, having the bars in a position like this gives you more of that all day long comfort where you can really go out and enjoy the ride. The install, when you're finished, you need to make sure that you have good clearance, right? When you sweep the bars back and forth, they are not coming in contact with the fairings. On a street bike, this kit includes some hardware that is going to allow you to raise up the front fairing, okay? These spacers will sit right on top of the OEM fairing steer. They're machined to sit in position, right? And you can see it's going to lift it up probably a little more than 1/4 of an inch. That lifts the fairing up out of the way and is going to get you the clearance that you need in order to be able to sweep the bars back and forth. With that said, you're still going to have to fiddle with the adjustment, right? The angle of the clutch lever, the angle of the brake lever, right? The reservoir, to make sure that you do have good clearance. There's always a little give and take with that. And there was a lot of give and take with this particular project. Getting the front fairing lifted up like this with the race bodywork and the race fairing stay proved to be a little challenging. This front fairing is held on at the top with deuce fasteners. That's the way this kit was installed before Chad had painted it, and I had to basically just follow along with that when I reinstalled the race bodywork. In order to raise the front fairing, what I did is I pulled the fairing stay off and I kind of slotted out the upper mounting hole. The lower one was already slotted somewhere in the neighborhood of 1/4 inch to raise the fairing stay up a little bit. That was close, but not quite as much as I needed. So then I had to put an extension in the aluminum tube on the outer ears of the race fairing stay. I lifted it up probably about another eighth of an inch, right? Bought myself about another 1/8 of an inch, and in the end, I had good clearance there. What had also been changed on this bike that was unique was the throttle assembly. This is a brand that you don't see very often anymore. I'm not sure if they're still around, Cycle Pirates. It's a quick turn throttle assembly, and he has a Brembo master cylinder. Very common on the GSX-Rs if you have a track bike to have a Brembo master. These bikes had famous brake fade problems, okay? This compounded the complexity of the install in its own right. I ended up having ultimately to install this Motion Pro universal stop-start switch. The previous owner that donated this bike to Mark had taken the OEM throttle and switch assembly and he cut it down. I actually did a really nice clean job. It looked great, and it was about this thick when it was done, okay? So much more so than the Motion Pro. And what that did is it pushed the master cylinder further away from the actual throttle housing itself. That spacing created a bit of a safety issue. If you see the relief here, right, the contour in the brake lever, that is designed to give you clearance around the throttle housing. Before I had bled the brakes and installed the brake lines, I was mocking up all of the controls, and I quickly found that with that spacing, this brake lever was coming into contact with the throttle housing long before the end of the blade came in contact with the bars. What would that mean? If you're on the racetrack and let's say that you're getting some brake fade, there would then be the possibility that the lever would contact the throttle housing, preventing you from getting enough brake pressure to stop the bike. Obviously, that is a safety concern. That was something I had to address. I addressed that by installing the much thinner Motion Pro universal stop-start switch. Throttle return. This is so key. You always want a good positive snapback, right? You never want it to stick where you have to turn it back yourself. Always a good positive snapback. It's important as well that you check it with the handlebars at the full stop position in both directions. I used a universal reservoir mount from Driven. It's a nice piece of stainless steel. It's very flexible. It's very strong. We use this on a lot of our race bikes. It does a great job. You mount that to the upper bolt here of the master cylinder, right? This is something you wouldn't have to do if you had a full OEM setup on your bike, but on this bike, those were adjustments that I ended up having to make in order to get the end result that I was looking for. This clutch lever is not in the greatest of condition. I'm going to get Mark a clutch lever. We're going to get that installed on there as well. But I think this clearly displays, look at this ergonomic here. I mean, this is such a change. I know he's going to be super excited to ride it. There's a lot of people who have worked on this bike so far. Chad McCauley did all the paint work. He did an absolutely gorgeous job repairing the bodywork and painting the bodywork. Joe Kraft over at Witchcraft Motorsports redid the forks, redid the shock. He put a steering damper on it. Nice safety wire job. Serviced the steering stem bearings, serviced the swing arm bearings. Really working towards getting this thing in tip-top condition for Mike and getting the bike set up in a way that he can take it out on the track and enjoy riding it. I realize this isn't our standard install, and I hope you guys understand it was just one of those projects that it was too difficult to show you every single step. With that said, this kit is a very popular selling kit for us. If you have any questions while you're doing your install, leave those in the comments section of this video. I answer all that stuff myself. I'm really familiar with this at this point, and I'm always here to help you guys get the same result from your project we get from ours.